What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Drinks with Drea. I'm your host, Miss Drea, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Just wanted to pop on here real quick. Had a couple topics to cover. As you guys know, in true Drinks with Drea fashion, we got to talk about what we're sipping on today. We keeping it real light with some country red wine. This is by St. James Winery. Typically found at Walmart. Do not judge me for not buying 12, 15, 30, $100 bottle wine. I keep it nice and cheap because that's my business in my Tabitha Brown voice. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. One thing I wanted to talk very briefly about is Jussie Smollett. So as you guys know, back in 2019, Jussie Smollett single-handedly ruined Empire. Okay, that might be a bit of a stretch. I think Empire was kind of on its last leg as a series, but it definitely did not help for Jussie Smollett to make the choice that he made. What we have come to learn over the last 2 years is that he pretty much made the story up, or at least that's the belief, the accepted belief that we all now have, because turns out the people who he claimed to have been mega supporters were actually two Nigerians who are very familiar with Jussie, who trained him, who know him from the Empire set. So it's not two strangers. Also, I don't know how you can mistake two Nigerians for two two alleged white Trump supporters. The reason why he made these accusations, I don't think the world will ever know. But he did, and it was very quickly dispelled. And he went from being the gay Tupac to kind of living in shame. He still has people that believe him and that support him, but I think the main majority, or the most people believe that he made these things up. Nonetheless, when it first happened, Kim Foxx, who is the district attorney, she made a decision like, hey, this was foolish, but we're going to go ahead and just nip this in the bud. He made a mistake. It was his first offense. Let's just let it go. But then you have a lot of people who feel like she's too easy on crime, specifically too easy on Jussie Smollett. And so they have pushed for this to go back to trial. So recently, Jussie Smollett pushed or entered a request to dismiss the case altogether. But the judge who is presiding over this case has decided that he will not allow this case to be thrown out. And as a result, Jussie Smollett will stand trial for these accusations. Now, one thing that I hate about this is that, yes, Jussie allegedly told a lie, right? Yes, he definitely played a role in getting this set up. Yes, there was a bigger agenda. And yes, this is a horrible thing to do. Even with as much hate as Donald Trump and his supporters received, it's just not okay to lie on people. It's not okay to create false narratives and stories for your own personal benefit, which is essentially what was done in this case. So I get why it's a horrible thing to do, but I think that life that had, the life that he experienced after these accusations more than pay for or make up for the mishaps, in the lie. He lost his career, he lost his credibility, he lost fans and friends and people who supported him. So he already lost a lot as a result of this foolish lie that he made. The only reason, they are interested in taking this to court is to prove a point, to prove a point that this type of behavior is not accepted and to discourage anyone from doing it again. I get it wholeheartedly. But at the same time, you just get frustrated with it always being people of color who are always made to be made an example out of. I am pretty sure that Jussie Smollett is not the first person to make up a lie or to create their own story in order for attention or popularity. Hello, Carol Bryant, the woman who lied on Emmett Till that resulted in his lynching in 1959. So let's not sit here and pretend as if people going to the police or going to the court of public opinion with lies is not something that people sometimes do. And maybe it's a mental health disorder, maybe it's just a cry for attention, who knows? But the idea of Jussie Smollett having to be made to be the face of don't do this. I just don't like the idea of that. I also don't like the idea of him possibly facing a large, prison sentence based on this. I think, again, life has taught him this lesson. He was at the top of his career. He's been acting along with his siblings for a very long time, as extras. So he really hadn't gotten that big break until Empire. So now here he is on this huge show that's very popular, and giving him the attention and the notoriety and the celebrity that he's been looking for. And why he would choose to make this story up is beyond anyone. But at the same time, grace, everybody deserves grace. Everybody deserves forgiveness. Everybody deserves a second chance. Life has already kicked his ass for this. And I hope that he is not left to be made into an example for the city of Chicago. We get it, he gets it, and let's just move on. All right, speaking of moving on, let's go ahead and talk about Torrei Hart. She recently was in the headlines because she has to defend her decision to not change her last name. Of course, Torrei Hart is previously married to Kevin Hart. He has 2 children with her. He was married to her prior to reaching the level of success that he gets to enjoy today. And he ended up, they broke up. It was a bit of a messy divorce, but they got through it. And now they're co-parenting in the most healthy way possible for the sake of their children that they share together, as well as the 2 other children that Kevin has had with his new wife, Aniko. So they're co-parenting, they're getting along, there's peace in the palace, but people are just inquiring, why is it that she's keeping her last name? So I do want to ask you guys out there, if you are a person who was married to a person, or just hypothetically speaking, if you're married to someone and you guys break up, is it okay to keep that person's last name? Now, for me, the answer is absolutely yes, specifically in this situation, because they have children. And I don't know if anybody who has to deal with having a different last name than your children, but it's just inconvenient. There's always that question of, well, who are you to this child? I think it's always assumed when you guys have the same last name, but when you have different last names, it's that extra question of, well, who, is this your child? Is this your niece, your nephew, etc.? Also, just the process of changing your last name can be a lot. When I got married, I had to go through, going to get original copies of birth certificates and all type of stuff just to get my last name changed. And so just to go through that process in reverse, unless it's a dire need, I really don't see the purpose. And just, again, it's Torrei Hart who is married or was married to Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart has made a name for himself as a Hart. He is a multimillionaire. He is one of the biggest comedians in our era. He is someone that, has, again, made a name for himself. So why the hell would she not use that last name to benefit her? She is just as much involved and responsible for that man's success, because she was there before there was any success. She was there before anybody knew his name. So why shouldn't she benefit from having the last name Hart? And even if it wasn't the case, again, of a celebrity, who wants to go through that process if they don't have to, especially when they have kids? Now, if she remarries and she keeps the last name, that would be very interesting, because I would just feel like, okay, girl, you kind of, to me, that would be like a slap in the face of her next spouse, where she wouldn't want to take his last name, because it's almost like, well, you don't see me in the same regard or in the same respect as your ex. So I can understand when that might be an issue, but I just don't understand people's obsession, specifically in social media, with trying to get into people's business and asking them questions that shouldn't really concern them, right? Like, who gives a rat's butt what Torrei Hart's last name is? But just from a common sense standpoint, of course she's going to keep the last name. I would keep the last name, even if it wasn't Kevin Hart. Once I changed my name, and that's who I'm going by, and now all of my legal documents are in this name, all of my credit report, everything that's pertinent to me is now in this new name. Now I have to go back and reverse everything that I have created and built and put my name on over the last 10, 15 years just because me and this person isn't together anymore. And also, when you take on a new last name, you almost take it on a new identity. You know, who you were under one last name is, you know, like your maiden last name, your daughter, you're a student, you're a young adult growing up. Once you take on your husband's name, now you become a new identity under that name. This is the more mature version of you. This is the name that people know from your career. This is the name that people know, again, from things that you put your name on. So why would you just be so quick to say, well, to hell with that name, I'm going back to my maiden name? But everybody has a right, you know, to make whatever personal choice makes sense for them. But I support it. I would do it. I think, you know, I don't speak negativity into my own life, but if I was in that predicament, I definitely would keep my last name. Why not? Why not? And even if it's not a person who's the level of Kevin Hart still, why not? Moving along. Another topic I wanted to go over today was just a gem that I took away from listening to Tabitha Brown's book, and also from recent interviews that I've watched of hers, where people ask her, like, how do you get things done? You know what I mean? Like, we all have goals and things that we want to accomplish, but how is it that you make sure that you follow up and get it done? And one thing that she said that really stood out to me is to know your why. And I know that sounds very simple, like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, okay, why am I doing this? And for some people, your why might be life or death, right? It might be so imperative. Like, if I decide I want to eat a different way or work out more frequently, then of course the idea would then be, or the why then would be, for my health, you know, for me to become a better version of myself, for me to, you know, meet the goals or reach the goals that I have set for myself. No matter what the situation is or what the issue is or whatever you want to call it, the why behind it, you know, the goal. If my goal is to be an actress, why do I want to be an actress? If my goal is to write a book, why do I want to write a book? If my goal is to receive certain licenses or accolades or accreditations, what are the reasons for it? And it's not always as simple as because I want to, but how does this impact my overall goals? How does this impact the quality of my life? How does this make me a better person? Those are things that I think we all should think about before we really put forth any real effort and energy into our goals. Just really think about it. You know, if you have a goal to get a new job, what's the why behind it? Is it because you want a new job? Is it because the job that you're in is in an inconvenient location? Is it because you're not fond of the people that you're working with and you're hoping to find new people? But even as you're going through the why of it, try to think about, especially in situations where you're trying to get away from situations or get away from people, think about you and how you contribute to the environment that you're in, that you're trying to get away from, right? Like, if you have a toxic work environment, and let's say the last 3 jobs you had, you felt the same thing. I have a toxic work environment. I have a toxic work environment. I want to get a new job because I want to be around better people. You might want to start to dissect that a little bit more. What was it about those people, or what was it about that environment that made it toxic, and what did you do to contribute to it? Because sometimes it could be us as the problem, taking our problem from one place to the next place to the next place, when we really need to be doing the work internally and figuring out how do we become not the problem that we're trying to run from. So, but I even just that activity alone of just sitting down and having an honest conversation with yourself to really ask yourself why. Why is it that I want to accomplish this goal? Why is it that I want to, you know, change this thing about my life? And once you really sit down and just take it, you know, you could do it verbally or just write it down. What is my why for this? I think the more you understand your why and believe in your why, the more likely you're going to get whatever it is that's done. I've been practicing this lately with all of the goals that I have, and I am seeing more progress simply by having a better understanding of the why. So I just want to share that gem with you guys. I hope that it blesses you in the way that it blessed me. And I hope you guys, you know, can start the process of writing those goals down, tackling them one at a time, making sure that you break them down into, simpler, easier to measure goals, and start getting it done. Our time is now. Our time for growth and evolution and being the best version of ourselves is now. So let's get to it. Now, I know I just was real quick because, again, I just want to make sure I posted something, and also cover a couple topics that had been on my mind for today. But I don't have that much time to give y'all today. I'll do another video in a couple days where I got the camera on, and I take my time to kind of go through these topics. But I just wanted to make sure I posted something for this week because, again, the goal for this year is consistency. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'm going to talk to you guys soon. See you at the top.